Her daughter asked her that morning why she was taking the coat. Grace said someone else needed it more. Amara was 8 years old. She looked at her mother for a long time. "Do we have another one?" she said. Grace said, "Yes." She didn't have another one. She drove to the church, put the coat in the bin, and went to work in the same jacket she'd been wearing for 3 winters. The one with the broken zipper she fixed every morning with a safety pin. The one that stopped keeping her warm somewhere around January. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't think it was a story worth telling. A man named Marcus Webb saw her drop it in the bin and walk away. He reached in. He read the name written in marker inside the collar, Amara, size 8. Not the mother's name, the daughter's. He stood in the cold for a long time. Then he went to find her. Subscribe if you're new. Share this tonight. Stay with me, because what he says when he finds her is something you need to hear. She had $23.47 in her checking account. She knew the exact number because she'd checked at 6 a.m. before Amara woke up. The specific early morning ritual of someone who needed to know what she was working with before the day made demands she couldn't meet. $23.47. Rent was due in 11 days, 847. She'd done this math so many times it had stopped being math and become something else, a weight she carried that didn't get lighter no matter how many times she recalculated. The coat had been her best idea last February. Not a great idea, a best idea, the specific constrained optimization of someone who had good ideas and bad options and was trying to find the overlap. Amara needed a winter coat. Grace had $34 she could move without breaking anything. Goodwill on Michigan Avenue had a red coat in size 8 that was clean and warm and had all its buttons. She'd bought it. Amara had put it on in the store and turned around once slowly like she was modeling it, and then looked at Grace with the specific expression of a child who understood that this was a real coat. A real coat, and not a maybe coat or a for now coat. "It's red," Amara had said. "It's red," Grace had confirmed. "Red is my best color," Amara had said. "I know," Grace had said. She'd known because Amara had told her approximately 400 times. September came. Amara tried the coat on and couldn't zip it. Not couldn't zip it like it was difficult. Couldn't zip it like it was a coat for a smaller child who no longer existed. She'd stood in the hallway looking at Grace with the expression of someone who had just discovered that things you loved could stop fitting without anyone's permission. "It doesn't fit," she'd said. "You grew," Grace had said. Amara had said. Grace had looked at her daughter, at the coat that didn't fit anymore, at $23.47 in a checking account that was going to be $23.47 for another 12 days. "We're going to figure it out," she'd said. That was September. It was now December. She had not figured it out. What she'd done instead was layer. Amara in a hoodie under her school sweatshirt, under the heaviest cardigan Grace owned, which hit Amara at the knee and made her look like she was wearing a small blanket. Amara had worn it without complaint. That was the thing about Amara. She didn't complain about the things she understood mattered. She was 8 years old and she already knew which things mattered. Grace didn't know when she'd learned that. She suspected she'd taught her without meaning to. The church drive had been Mrs. Johnson's idea. Mrs. Johnson lived upstairs and watched Amara after school and had been watching Amara after school for 2 years in exchange for Grace helping with her grocery runs on Saturdays, which worked out to roughly even. And neither of them mentioned money, because neither of them needed to. "First Baptist is doing a coat drive," Mrs. Johnson had said on Thursday. "You bring in a coat, you get a voucher for 1 coat back. They've got good stuff this year." Someone donated a whole box from Nordstrom. Grace had looked at her. "I don't have a coat to bring," she'd said. Mrs. Johnson had looked at her. "Amara's old one," she'd said. "The red one. She might still need it," Grace had said. They'd both known that wasn't true. Mrs. Johnson hadn't said so. "Think about it," she'd said. Grace had thought about it for 2 days. A coat that didn't fit for a coat that would. That was the math. That was the only math that worked. She told Amara that morning, not everything, the voucher part, the exchange part, the idea that someone else's child would be warm and Amara would have something that fit. Amara had listened. She'd asked the question Grace hadn't been ready for. Do we have another one? Meaning, if I give mine away, do we have one for me while we wait? Grace had said yes. She did not have another one. She had a safety pin and a jacket with a broken zipper and 11 days until rent was due and $23.47. And a daughter who was going to need a coat today because it was 28 degrees outside and dropping. She'd dropped Amara at Mrs. Johnson's. She'd driven to First Baptist. She'd written Amara on the inside collar in black marker because her daughter had asked her to and because it felt like the least she could do, make sure whoever received it knew it had been loved by someone specific. She'd put it in the bin. She'd driven to work. She hadn't cried until she was in the pharmacy parking lot and there was no one to see. Her shift started at 9. She worked the front register. 12-hour shift on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays were when the pharmacy was busiest and because 12 hours was more money than 8, and right now, more money than 8 was the only calculation that mattered. She put on her vest. She clocked in. She stood at the register, and she did what she always did. She put the morning in the place where she put mornings, and she did her job, and she smiled at people who needed their prescriptions, and she helped the woman who couldn't find the cold medicine, and she directed the man who was looking for the bathroom. She was good at her job, not because it was easy, because being good at her job was the one thing nobody could take from her. At 10:15, her phone buzzed. She looked at it between customers. A number she didn't recognize. A text. My name is Marcus Webb. I was at First Baptist this morning. I think I have something that belongs to your daughter. Can we talk? She read it twice. She put her phone in her pocket. She helped the next customer. She thought about the red coat, about Amara written in black marker, about someone finding it. She didn't know what to think. She didn't have time to think. She helped the next customer. He'd been to 4 donation drives in 6 months. Not because he was generous, because he was looking for a coat. Specifically, a navy wool peacoat, women's size small, with a small tear in the left pocket lining that his mother had repaired herself with dark blue thread, because Eleanor Webb did not pay someone to fix something she could fix herself. She'd donated it. He hadn't known until after. Eleanor Webb had died on a Tuesday in June. Not suddenly, the way nothing with Eleanor was sudden. She'd been sick for 8 months, and she'd managed those 8 months the way she managed everything. With complete information, specific decisions, and a refusal to let anyone else carry more than their share. She'd told Marcus in February. It's my body, she'd said, and I'm going to handle it my way. Her way had involved telling him exactly what to expect and when, organizing her finances with the help of an accountant she'd trusted for 30 years, and donating most of her belongings to places she'd vetted herself. I don't want you to have to go through everything, she'd said. It's a burden. I'm not leaving you a burden. He'd said, Mom, I want the burden. She'd looked at him. You'll have enough to carry, she'd said. Let me do this one thing. He'd let her. He hadn't known about the peacoat until he found the receipt 3 months after she died. A donation receipt from First Baptist Summer Drive, itemized, and there it was. 1 navy wool peacoat, women's small. He'd sat with that receipt for a long time. The peacoat had been in a photograph. Not a formal photograph, the kind that happened by accident. His parents' 25th anniversary. He'd been 16. Someone had handed him a camera and said, take pictures, and he'd spent the evening taking photographs of everything. And nothing the way 16-year-olds did, not understanding yet that the photographs that mattered weren't the ones you planned. His mother standing by the window. Navy peacoat. Laughing at something someone had said. Not looking at the camera. That was the photograph. He'd had it on his desk for 30 years. After she died, he'd looked at it differently. He'd needed the coat back, not to wear, not to keep in a box, to hold, to have the thing that had been in the photograph. To understand, in some way, he couldn't fully articulate, that she had been real and the coat had been real and the woman laughing by the window had existed. He knew how it sounded. He was a 52-year-old man who ran a billion-dollar company, and he was going to coat drives at churches looking for his dead mother's peacoat. He knew how it sounded. He went, anyway. He'd gone to First Baptist that morning, not because he expected to find it, because he didn't know what else to do on a Tuesday in December at 8 in the morning when the thing that was wrong couldn't be fixed with any of the tools he actually had. He'd looked through the coats, methodically, the way he did everything. Navy. Women's small, dark blue thread on the left pocket lining. It wasn't there. He'd known it wasn't going to be there. He'd gone anyway. He was leaving when he saw her. Not Grace specifically, the motion. The specific motion of someone placing something carefully in a bin, not dropping. Placing. The way you place something when it cost you something to let go of it. He'd seen that motion before. In a hospital room. His mother placing her watch on the bedside table the night before a procedure. Not dropping it. Placing it. The specific care of someone who understood the weight of objects. He'd stopped. He'd watched Grace walk away. He'd watched her not look back. He'd waited until she was through the door. Then he'd walked to the bin. He'd reached in. He'd found the red coat. Not because it was his mother's, because of the way she'd placed it. He'd turned it over. He'd looked inside the collar. Amara, size 8. Not the mother's name. The daughter's. He'd stood there. Around him, the drive continued. Volunteers sorting, people coming and going, the specific organized generosity of a church on a Tuesday morning. He didn't move. He was thinking about what it meant. To give away something that belonged to your child. Not your own coat, your child's. He thought about his mother donating the pea coat. He thought about the donation receipt he'd found 3 months after she died. He thought about a woman he'd never met walking out of a church in December without a coat for her daughter. He thought about what it took to do that. To write your daughter's name in the collar so the next child would know it had been loved. To walk away without looking back. He found the volunteer coordinator. He bought the coat. Not donated. Bought. He understood instinctively that this was not a moment for charity. He didn't know why yet. He just knew. Then he asked if anyone knew the woman in the gray jacket with the broken zipper who had just left. The coordinator looked at him. Grace Mitchell, she said. She's here most Tuesdays. Her little girl, Amara, is in the Sunday school. He'd gotten her number from the church directory. He'd sent the text. Then he'd sat in his car for 20 minutes, thinking about whether he was doing something insane. He decided he probably was. He sent it anyway. She read it 4 more times on her break, not because it got clearer, because she kept hoping it would. My name is Marcus Webb. I was at First Baptist this morning. I think I have something that belongs to your daughter. Can we talk? She sat in the break room with her phone and her coffee, and the specific low-grade anxiety of someone who had learned that unexpected contact from strangers was rarely good news. She Googled the name, Marcus Webb, Webb Industries. Net worth, $3 billion. She looked at her phone. She looked at her coffee. She looked at her phone again. A billionaire had her daughter's coat. She didn't know what to do with that information. She texted back, "How did you get this number?" 3 minutes. Church directory. I'm sorry, I should have led with that. I'm not trying to alarm you. I just wanted to return something. She read that twice. Return something. He'd bought it back. A billionaire had gone to a coat drive and bought back her daughter's coat and was now texting her from a church directory number to return it. She typed, "Why?" 1 word. She sent it, she waited. The response took longer this time. 6 minutes. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out, but I read the name in the collar. Amara. And I understood that you gave away something that cost you something. And I didn't want it to cost you more than it already had. Grace read that 3 times. She put her phone face down on the break room table. She picked up her coffee. She drank it. She thought about the safety pin holding her jacket together. She thought about Amara in a cardigan that hit her at the knee. She thought about $23, 47 and 11 days, and $847. She thought about a man she'd never met who had read her daughter's name in a coat collar and understood something she hadn't said out loud to anyone. She picked up her phone. My break ends in 4 minutes, she typed. I get off at 9 tonight. If you want to talk, it has to be then. 9 is fine, he wrote back. Where? She thought about it. She named the diner 2 blocks from the pharmacy. The one where the coffee was bad and the booths were small, and it was always just busy enough that sitting there with a stranger didn't feel unsafe. "I'll be there," he wrote. She put her phone away. She went back to the register. She helped the next customer. She did not think about Marcus Webb for the rest of her shift. That was a lie. She thought about him constantly. She called Mrs. Johnson at 8:45. "Can Amara stay until 10?" she said. "I have something I need to handle." "Is everything okay?" Mrs. Johnson said. Grace said, "I'm not sure yet." Mrs. Johnson was quiet for a moment. "Amara's fine," she said. "She's watching her show. Take your time." "Thank you," Grace said. "Grace," Mrs. Johnson said. "Yeah," Grace said. "Whatever it is," Mrs. Johnson said, "you don't have to handle it alone." Grace held the phone. "I know," she said. She didn't always know. But tonight she said it like she did. He was already there when she arrived. Corner booth. Not the worst booth. The one in the back where the light was better and the noise from the kitchen was less. He was wearing a coat that cost more than her rent. She registered that immediately and filed it in the place where she filed things that were true and not useful. He stood up when he saw her. She hadn't expected that. She didn't know why she hadn't expected it. She sat down across from him. He sat. The red coat was on the table between them, folded. Carefully, the way you folded something that mattered. She looked at it. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she said. The waitress came. They both ordered coffee. Neither of them said anything until the coffee came. "I want to explain," he said, "why I texted you. Because I know how it must have seemed." "Strange," she said. "Strange," he said. "Yes. A billionaire texting a stranger from a church directory about a coat," she said. He looked at her. Something in his face that wasn't quite a smile. "When you say it like that," he said. "I Googled you," she said. "I assumed," he said. "So," she said. "Why?" He looked at the coat on the table. "My mother died 6 months ago," he said. She hadn't expected that. She waited. She donated her things before she died. "I didn't know all of it. She handled it herself. She didn't want to leave me with. She didn't want me to have to go through everything." He paused. There was a coat. Navy pea coat. "I've been looking for it at Drives because I need," he stopped. "Because it was in a photograph, the one I keep on my desk. And I thought if I could find it." He stopped again. He looked at the table. "I'm sorry," he said. "This isn't what I—" "No," Grace said. "Keep going." He looked at her. At a woman he'd just met in a diner at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, who had told him to keep going. He kept going. "I thought if I could find it, I'd understand something. About why she gave it away. About what it meant that she did it the way she did. Organized, intentional, making sure everything went somewhere it would be used." He looked at the red coat. "I didn't find the pea coat, but I saw you put this one in the bin, and the way you did it." He paused. "The way I did it," she said. "Like it cost you," he said. "But you were doing it anyway." She looked at her coffee. "It did cost me," she said. "I know," he said. "I read the collar." Amara. She thought about her writing the name suggestion on a piece of paper and sliding it across the kitchen table. "Tell them my name is in it." "She's 8, Grace said. She wanted whoever got it to know it had a name." Marcus looked at the coat. "My mother did the same thing," he said, "with everything she donated. Labels, notes. She said objects carried the people who used them and the next person deserved to know." Grace looked at him, at a 52-year-old man in an expensive coat sitting in a bad diner on a Tuesday night trying to understand his dead mother through a stranger's generosity. She understood something in that moment. He hadn't come to return the coat. He'd come because he needed to talk to the person who had placed it in the bin the way his mother would have placed it, with intention, with cost, with someone else's warmth in mind. "She sounds like she was something," Grace said. "She was," Marcus said. "She really was. The coffee was bad." She'd warned him when she ordered. "The coffee here is bad," she'd said to the waitress, not to him. Specific disclaimer of a regular who had made peace with a thing. He'd drunk it anyway. She'd noticed that. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Yes," he said. "Why didn't you just leave the coat?" she said. "At the drive. You could have put it back. Someone else would have gotten it." He thought about it. "Because it already belonged to someone," he said. "Amara's name was in it. It was already hers. I didn't have the right to give it to someone else." Grace looked at him. I gave it away, she said. You gave it away so another child could be warm, he said. That's different from me giving it away because I found it in a bin. She thought about that. That's a fine distinction, she said. Maybe, he said, but I think distinctions matter. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. She needs a new coat, Grace said. That's why I did it. The drive, you bring one in, you get a voucher for one back. I was going to use the voucher. Did you get one? He said. No, she said. You bought the coat before I checked in. He looked at her. The specific expression of someone who had just understood the full consequence of something they'd done. I didn't think. It's okay. It's not, he said. No, she said. But it's fixable. Most things are. He looked at her. You do that a lot, he said. Do what, she said. Make things smaller than they are, he said. So they're manageable. She looked at her coffee. I have an 8-year-old, she said. If I don't make things manageable, they don't get managed. Who manages them for you? He said. She looked at him. At the specific, direct quality of the question. Most people didn't ask that. Most people asked how she was doing and accepted fine and moved on, because moving on was easier than staying with the answer. I do, she said. Always? Always, she said. He nodded, not with pity, with recognition. The specific nod of someone who understood what it meant to be the person who managed things because there was no one else. My mother did that, he said. After my father left. I was 11. She worked 2 jobs and she managed everything, and she never once let me see her not managing. Did you know anyway? Grace said. Eventually, he said, when I was old enough to do the math. Amara's doing the math, Grace said. How old is she? He said. 8, she said. But she's 8 the way some kids are 12. My mother was like that, he said. She said it wasn't a compliment. Grace looked at him. It's not, she said. It means they grew up faster than they should have. Yes, he said. They sat with that. The specific, honest weight of 2 people acknowledging something that was true and painful and didn't require resolution to be said. Tell me about her, Grace said. Your mother. He looked at her. Why? He said. Because you came here to talk about her, she said, and you've been talking around her. He looked at his coffee. At the bad coffee, in a bad diner at 9:15 on a Tuesday, he talked about Eleanor. Not the version he told in interviews, the inspiring origin story, the woman who worked 2 jobs and raised him alone and watched him build a company from nothing. The real version. The woman who burned toast every single morning of his childhood because she was thinking about other things while it was in the toaster and never once thought to adjust the setting. The woman who kept a notepad next to her bed for 30 years because she'd get ideas at 2 a.m. and didn't want to forget them by morning. The woman who argued with the television during the news, not frustrated arguing, engaged arguing, the arguing of someone who believed the people on the screen could hear her and owed her better. The woman who repaired things herself. Everything, he said. Clothes, appliances. The car, sometimes with varying degrees of success. She said paying someone to fix something you could fix yourself was a waste of 2 things, money and the satisfaction of fixing it. My mother was like that, Grace said. Was? He said. She passed, Grace said, 3 years ago. I'm sorry, he said. She was sick a long time, Grace said. It wasn't a surprise. But it's still, yes, he said. It is. They looked at each other. 2 people who had lost their mothers in different ways, at different times, with different resources and different distances and different amounts of time to prepare. But the same loss, the specific, irreplaceable loss of the person who had been the fixed point. She would have liked you, Marcus said. Grace looked at him. You don't know me, she said. I know you donated your daughter's coat, he said, and wrote her name in the collar, and came to a diner at 9 o'clock to talk to a stranger about it. He paused. My mother would have liked you. She had a specific radar for people who did hard things quietly. Grace looked at the coat on the table, at Amara written in black marker, at the red wool that had kept her daughter warm for one winter. It wasn't a hard thing, she said. Yes, it was, he said. It was the right thing, she said. Those aren't mutually exclusive, he said. She looked at him, at a man who had come to a coat drive looking for his mother and had found something else instead. No, she said. They're not. The waitress refilled their coffee without being asked. Bad coffee. Neither of them mentioned it. Can I ask you something now? Marcus said. You already asked me several things, Grace said. This one's different, he said. Okay, she said. What did you need the voucher for, he said. The specific coat, if you'd gotten one. She looked at him. Something warm, she said. Size 9 or 10. Amara grows fast. She looked at him. She likes red, she said. She says it's her best color. Is she right? He said. Grace thought about her daughter in the Goodwill store, turning around slowly in the red coat. Yeah, she said. She is. Marcus nodded. He picked up the red coat from the table. He held it out to her. This is Amara's, he said. It was always Amara's. I shouldn't have taken it out of the bin. Grace looked at it. It doesn't fit her anymore, she said. I know, he said, but it's hers, and there should be a new one. And I'd like to help with that. Not as charity, not as. He stopped. I don't know how to say this without it sounding like something it's not. Then say it wrong, she said. And we'll figure out what it actually is. He looked at her. At a woman who had just told him to say the thing badly, rather than not say it. He said it. My mother spent her whole life giving things to people who needed them. She gave away her coat. She gave away other things. And she never once let anyone make her feel small for needing things in return. He paused. I want to do something. Not because you need rescuing. Because my mother would have. And I'm trying to figure out how to be her when I don't know how to be her. Grace looked at him for a long time. At a billionaire in an expensive coat, sitting in a bad diner trying to be his dead mother. She understood that. She understood that completely. Okay, she said. Okay, he said. Tell me what you're thinking, she said. He told her. He'd thought about it in the car. After he sent the text. Before she responded. During the 20 minutes he'd sat in the parking lot of First Baptist, trying to decide if he was doing something insane. He'd made a list. Not on paper, in his head, the way he made lists when he needed to think through something before he could act on it. Pros on one side, problems on the other. The specific, systematic approach of someone who had built a company by understanding what was possible and what wasn't before committing to either. The list hadn't helped, because what he was thinking wasn't a business decision. It was a human one, and human decisions didn't respond well to lists. There's a coat, he said. Obviously. Amara needs a new one. I'd like to get her one. That's charity, Grace said. It's a coat, he said. It's charity wrapped in a coat, she said. He looked at her. Okay, he said. What would make it not charity? She thought about it. Not performatively, actually thought about it. The specific, focused consideration of someone who took the question seriously. If I could do something in return, she said. What do you do? He said. Pharmacy cashier, she said. 12 years. I know medications, insurance billing, patient intake. I'm good with people who are scared. Scared of what? He said. Of what they're picking up, she said. The diagnosis behind the prescription. People come to the counter and they're holding something that changed their life an hour ago, and they don't know what to do with their face yet. She paused. I know how to help with that. He looked at her. That's not a small skill, he said. No, she said. It's not. My company has a healthcare division, he said. Patient advocacy. People who help patients navigate insurance, understand their options, communicate with providers. He paused. We're always looking for people who are good with scared. Grace looked at him. I'm a pharmacy cashier, she said. I know, he said. I don't have a degree, she said. I know, he said. Then why? Because degrees tell me what someone studied, he said. They don't tell me if someone knows how to stand next to a person who just got bad news and make them feel less alone. He looked at her. You just told me you know how to do that. That's not something I can teach. She was quiet. This is too much, she said. It's a job interview, he said. In a bad diner at 9:30 at night. It doesn't have to be more than that. It is more than that, she said. Yes, he said, but we can pretend it isn't until it makes sense. She looked at her coffee, at the bad coffee in the bad diner, at the red coat folded on the table. I'm not a project, she said. I know, he said. I'm not someone you get to feel good about helping, she said. I'm not. She stopped. I came here because I thought you were returning a coat. Not because I need someone to. Grace, he said. She stopped. He waited. I know, he said. I know you didn't come here for this, and I know what this looks like from where you're sitting. He paused. It looks like a billionaire saw a woman doing something hard and decided he knew what she needed. Yes, she said. That's what it looks like. And that's not what this is, he said. Then, what is it? She said. He thought about Eleanor, about the donation receipt, about 4 coat drives in 6 months, about a red coat in a bin and a name written in marker, and a woman who had placed it the way his mother would have placed it. My mother spent 30 years doing things for people without making them feel small for needing it, he said. She had a way of offering help that felt like respect, like she was saying, I see what you're doing and I want to be part of it. He paused. I haven't figured out how she did that, but I'm trying. Grace looked at him. You're doing okay, she said. Yeah, he said. You asked what would make it not charity, she said. That's a good start. She took the coat. Not immediately. After another 20 minutes of coffee, she couldn't taste and conversation moved from the job to Amara, to Marcus's company, to the specific frustration of insurance billing, which Grace had opinions about, that made him take out his phone and start typing notes. She took it because he'd asked what would make it not charity, and she'd told him, and he'd listened. That was enough. She folded it under her arm the way you carried something important. The job, she said at the door. Yes, he said. If I come in, she said, it's because I'm qualified. I know, he said. I need you to actually know that, she said. Not just say it. He looked at her. My head of patient advocacy has been looking for someone who can train new staff on patient communication for 8 months, he said. She's interviewed 26 people. Nobody has been right. He paused. Come in. Talk to her. If you're not right for it, she'll tell you. She tells everyone. What's her name? Grace said. Dr. Patricia Owens, he said. She's harder to impress than I am. Good, Grace said. Good, he said. If she's hard to impress, it means getting the job would actually mean something, Grace said. He looked at her. At a woman standing in a diner doorway, in a jacket, held together with a safety pin, telling him that being hard to impress was a feature, not a bug. Thursday, he said. 10 a.m., I'll send you the address. I have a shift, she said. What time does it end? He said. 6 a.m., she said. He looked at her. You work tonight? I work nights, she said. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then days Wednesday and Friday. When do you sleep? He said. When Amara's at school, she said. He was quiet. Thursday afternoon then, he said. 2 o'clock. You'll have time to sleep. She looked at him. You adjusted your schedule, she said. Patricia can do 2, he said. She's flexible. You don't know that, she said. You haven't asked her. She'll be flexible, he said. Because you're her boss, she said. Because she's been trying to fill this position for 8 months. And if I tell her I found the right person, she'll move her whole week, he said. Grace looked at him. You don't know I'm the right person, she said. No, he said, but Patricia will. She drove home at 10:15, Amara's coat in the passenger seat. She'd put it there instead of the back because she wanted to see it. She drove, and she thought about Eleanor Webb donating a peacoat that her son had been looking for at coat drives for 6 months. She thought about her own mother, about things she'd given away after she died. A sweater Grace had tried to find for 2 years at every thrift store in Detroit. She'd never found it. She understood something now about what Marcus had been looking for, not the coat, evidence, that the woman had been real, that she had stood in rooms and laughed at things and worn coats and burned toast and argued with televisions, that she had existed in the specific, physical, undeniable way that mothers existed, and that her existing had mattered. Grace drove. She thought about Thursday, about Dr. Patricia Owens, who was hard to impress, about a job that paid more than $13.50 an hour, about Amara doing the math, about what it would mean to have Amara stop doing the math. She got home at 10:30. Mrs. Johnson had already put Amara to bed. Grace stood in the doorway of her daughter's room. Amara was asleep. George, not George. Amara didn't have a George. She had a stuffed elephant named Peanut. Peanut was tucked under her arm. Grace stood there, looked at her daughter. At 8 years old asleep, not doing math, not worrying, just sleeping. Grace went to the kitchen. She sat at the table. She put the red coat on the chair across from her. She looked at it. She's going to need a new one, she said to the coat. Amara, written in black marker. Inside collar. She sat there for a while. Then she went to bed. She almost didn't go, not because she'd changed her mind about the job, because Thursday morning Amara woke up with a fever. Not high, 99. 4. The specific inconvenient temperature that wasn't high enough to be clearly sick, but wasn't normal enough to ignore. The temperature that required a decision. School or no school, work or no work. The specific grinding arithmetic of a single mother whose margin for disruption was exactly 0. She texted Mrs. Johnson at 6:15. Amara has a low fever. I have something at 2. Is there any chance? Mrs. Johnson responded before she finished typing. Bring her up when she wakes up. I'll keep an eye. Grace held the phone. She typed back, thank you. She meant it the way she meant it every time. Completely, without the casual inflation that made thank you mean less than it should. She wore the good blazer. She only had one. Black. Bought 3 years ago for her mother's funeral and worn since to every occasion that required something better than her work clothes. She'd ironed it the night before, not because she was nervous, because the blazer deserved to be ironed when it mattered. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Blazer, dark jeans, the boots that were almost professional if you didn't look too closely. She looked like someone who was trying. She hoped that was enough. Webb Industries was downtown, 23rd floor. She'd looked it up on Google Maps 4 times. Not because she'd forget, because she needed to see it. The building, the entrance, the distance from the parking garage to the lobby. The specific, visual preparation of someone who didn't want to be surprised by logistics when she needed her brain for other things. She arrived at 1:50. 10 minutes early, she sat in the lobby for 8 of those minutes. The lobby was the kind of lobby that told you immediately what kind of company it was. Not flashy, not cold, the specific, intentional warmth of a place that had been designed by someone who understood that how you made people feel in the first 30 seconds mattered. Good chairs, real plants, a receptionist who looked up when she walked in and said, "Can I help you?" Like she meant it rather than like it was the thing she was paid to say. Grace Mitchell, Grace said. I have a 2 o'clock with Dr. Owens. The receptionist checked her screen. She's expecting you, she said. I'll let her know you're here. Grace sat. She looked at the plants. She thought about Amara upstairs at Mrs. Johnson's with a low fever watching her shows. She thought about $23.47. She thought about the red coat on the kitchen chair. She thought about what Marcus had said. She's harder to impress than I am. Good, she'd said. She meant it. Dr. Patricia Owens was 51 years old. She came to the lobby herself, didn't send an assistant. Walked with the specific, purposeful efficiency of someone who didn't have time she wasn't using. She looked at Grace. Grace looked at her. Miss Mitchell, she said. Dr. Owens, Grace said. Patricia, she said. Grace said. She led her back through the office, not to a conference room, to her own office, smaller than Grace had expected. Books on every surface. A whiteboard with something complicated written on it in 3 colors. A photo on the desk of 2 teenagers who looked like her around the eyes. Sit, Patricia said. Grace sat. Patricia sat across from her. She didn't open a folder. She didn't look at a resume. She looked at Grace. Marcus told me how you met, she said. I figured, Grace said. He told me you donated your daughter's coat, Patricia said. Yes, Grace said. He was impressed by that, Patricia said. I know, Grace said. I'm not, Patricia said. Grace looked at her. Not yet, Patricia said. I don't know you well enough to be impressed. What Marcus thinks of you is his business. What I think is mine, she paused. So let's start from scratch. Tell me about the work. Which work? Grace said. The pharmacy, Patricia said. 12 years. Tell me what you actually do, Grace told her. Not the resume version. Patricia had the resume, had clearly read it, had clearly decided the resume wasn't the point. The real version. She told her about Mrs. Hendricks, who came in every Tuesday for her blood pressure medication, and who Grace had noticed over 8 months was picking it up later and later each month. Not because she was forgetting, because she was waiting until she had the money. Grace had flagged it to the pharmacist, who had flagged it to the prescribing doctor who had gotten Mrs. Hendricks enrolled in a patient assistance program. She told her about the man who'd come in for his wife's chemotherapy prescription and couldn't afford the copay and didn't speak enough English to understand what the pharmacist was explaining about their options. Grace had spent 20 minutes with a translation app and a lot of patience until he understood that there was help available and where to find it. She told her about the teenager who came in alone for a prescription she was clearly embarrassed about, and how Grace had put a bag over the box before she handed it across the counter without being asked and without making a thing of it. Patricia listened. She didn't write anything down. She just listened with the specific, focused attention of someone who was doing real listening rather than waiting to speak listening. When Grace finished, Patricia was quiet for a moment. "Mrs. Hendricks," she said, "how long did it take you to notice the pattern?" "3 months," Grace said. "Why 3 months?" Patricia said. "Because the first month I thought it was coincidence," Grace said. "The second month I thought it might be a pattern. The third month I was sure." "You waited until you were sure," Patricia said. "Yes," Grace said. "Why?" Patricia said. "Because flagging something that turns out to be nothing costs the patient something," Grace said. "Their privacy, their sense of being watched. I didn't want to cost her that unless I was sure it was worth it." Patricia looked at her. A long look. The specific, assessing look of someone revising an estimate. "The training program," Patricia said. "What Marcus told you about. We onboard new patient advocates. 12 weeks. The hardest part isn't the insurance systems or the medical terminology." She paused. "The hardest part is teaching people to read the space between what a patient says and what they mean, to hear the thing that isn't being said." "I understand that," Grace said. "I know," Patricia said. "That's the problem." Grace looked at her. "You understand it because you've lived it," Patricia said. "In a pharmacy. With patients who trusted you. That's different from understanding it academically." She paused. "Most people I interview understand it academically. Is that good or bad?" Grace said. "For me. It means I need to know if you can teach it," Patricia said. "Understanding something and teaching it are different skills." "Yes," Grace said. "They are." "Can you?" Patricia said. Grace thought about Amara. About teaching Amara things. Not lessons, the other kind. The kind where you showed someone how to move through the world by moving through it in front of them. "I've been teaching my daughter how to read rooms since she was 4, Grace said. How to tell when someone is struggling, even when they say they're fine. How to help without making people feel helped." Patricia looked at her. "Is she good at it?" Patricia said. "Better than I was at her age," Grace said. "How old is she?" Patricia said. 8, Grace said. Patricia was quiet. 8, she said. "She's 8 the way some kids are 12, Grace said. Patricia looked at the photograph on her desk, at her teenagers. "Mine were like that," she said. "I didn't know whether to be proud or sorry." "Both," Grace said. "You're supposed to feel both." Patricia looked at her. Something shifted in her expression. Not smiling, the thing that happened before deciding. She stood up. "I'd like you to come back," she said, "next week. I want you to sit in on a training session. Watch what we do. Tell me what you'd do differently." Grace stood. "Is this a second interview?" she said. "It's due diligence," Patricia said. "I don't hire people I've talked to once." "Fair," Grace said. Patricia walked her to the door. She stopped. "Grace," she said. "Yes," Grace said. "Marcus was right about one thing," she said. "What's that?" Grace said. "You're not someone I can teach to do this," Patricia said. "Which means the question is just whether you can teach others." She paused. "I think you can, but I want to be sure." Grace looked at her. "I want you to be sure too," she said. Patricia nodded. Grace walked to the elevator. She pressed the button. She stood and waited. She thought about what Patricia had said. "You're not someone I can teach to do this." She'd been doing it for 12 years at a pharmacy counter. She'd been doing it her whole life at a kitchen table with a daughter who was learning to read rooms. She hadn't known it was a skill until someone named it. The elevator came. She got in. She thought about calling Marcus. She decided to text instead. She wants me to come back next week. He responded in 2 minutes. I told you, she almost smiled. You don't get to say that yet, she typed. Fair, he wrote back. She put her phone away. The elevator reached the lobby. She walked through the good chairs and the real plants and out into the December cold. She had to pick up Amara. She had to check the fever. She had $23, 47 in her checking account, and rent in 9 days. Nothing had changed. Everything felt different. The fever broke Thursday night. Grace came home from picking her up at Mrs. Johnson's and took her temperature at the door. The automatic gesture of a mother who had learned to verify before relaxing, and the thermometer read 98.6, and she exhaled in the specific full way that she only exhaled when something she'd been holding turned out okay. I'm fine, Mama, Amara said. I know, Grace said. You're still checking, Amara said. I'm a checker, Grace said. I know, Amara said. You check everything twice. Once to know and once to be sure, Grace said. Amara looked at her. That's the same thing, she said. It's really not, Grace said. She made soup, not from a can, the real kind, the way her mother had made it, from the chicken she'd had in the freezer, and the vegetables that were a day past ideal, and the specific, unhurried process of making something from what you had. Her mother had called it refrigerator soup. You don't need a recipe, she'd said. You need attention. You pay attention to what you have and you make it into something. Grace paid attention. She made it into something. Amara sat at the kitchen table doing homework while Grace cooked, the comfortable parallel activity of two people who had shared a small space long enough to move around each other without negotiating. Mama, Amara said. Grace said. Where's my coat? Grace stirred the soup. What coat? She said. My red one, Amara said. It's not in the closet. Grace kept stirring. She'd known this was coming. She'd been waiting for it since Thursday morning, when Amara had asked if they had another one, and Grace had said yes, and not looked at her daughter's face. I donated it, Grace said, to the church drive. Remember we talked about it? You said someone else's little girl was going to love it, Amara said. Yes, Grace said. Did they get it? Amara said. Grace thought about Marcus reaching into the bin, about Amara. Size 8. About a man in an expensive coat sitting in a bad diner trying to be his dead mother. It went somewhere it needed to go, she said. Amara processed this. Did my name help? She said. In the collar. Grace looked at her daughter. At 8 years old, doing homework at the kitchen table asking if her name had helped. Yes, she said. Your name helped. Amara nodded, satisfied. She went back to her homework. After dinner, Grace told her. Not everything, the shape of it. A man had seen her put the coat in the bin. He'd bought it and wanted to give it back. He'd also, and this was the part Grace took her time with, choosing words the way she chose ingredients, he'd also told her about a job. Amara listened. She was a good listener, the specific, active quiet of someone who was processing while receiving. When Grace finished, Amara was quiet for a moment. What kind of job? She said. Helping people figure out their medical stuff, Grace said. Insurance. Understanding what doctors are saying. Being with people when things are scary. Like what you do now, Amara said. Similar, Grace said. But more. More how? Amara said. More responsibility, Grace said. More like I'd be teaching other people to do it too. Amara looked at her. You'd be good at that, she said. You think so? Grace said. You taught me, Amara said. And I'm good at it. Grace looked at her daughter, at the complete, uncomplicated confidence of someone who hadn't yet learned to hedge. That's not, she started. Mama, Amara said. What? Grace said. You taught me how to tell when somebody's sad even when they say they're not, Amara said. You taught me how to be quiet when somebody needs quiet and talk when they need talking. She paused. That's the same thing, right? It's related, Grace said. So you'd be good at it, Amara said. She went back to her homework. Case closed. The specific, definitive end of a conversation as far as Amara was concerned. Grace washed the dishes. She thought about what Patricia had said. You're not someone I can teach to do this. She thought about what Amara had just said. You taught me. She thought about her mother. About refrigerator soup. You don't need a recipe. You need attention. You pay attention to what you have and you make it into something. She'd been paying attention for 34 years. To patients who didn't know what to do with their faces. To a daughter who was learning to read rooms. To a checking account and a rent bill. And the specific daily arithmetic of making something from what she had. She hadn't known that was a skill. She'd thought it was just survival. She rinsed the last bowl. She thought, maybe those were the same thing. Maybe survival. Real survival. The kind that didn't break people. The kind that made them better at knowing what mattered. Maybe that was a skill too. Maybe Patricia had been trying to hire it for 8 months. Maybe Amara had been learning it since she was 4. Amara came to find her at 8:30. Not because it was bedtime, because Amara had something on her mind and had reached the point where having it on her mind was less comfortable than saying it. Grace recognized the moment. She'd been waiting for it. "Mama," Amara said. "Yeah," Grace said. "The man who bought my coat," she said. "Marcus," Grace said. "Why did he buy it?" she said. Grace thought about how to explain it. About Eleanor Webb and a navy peacoat and a photograph on a desk and a man going to coat drives looking for something he couldn't find. About grief. About the specific, irrational things it made you do. About how you looked for dead people in the objects they'd touched. She thought about her mother's sweater, the one she'd been looking for in thrift stores for 2 years. He was looking for something, she said. Something that belonged to his mom. She passed away. He was sad, and he didn't know what to do with the sad, so he went looking for her things. Did he find them? Amara said. No, Grace said. But he found something else. What? Amara said. Grace thought about it. He found somebody doing the same thing his mom would have done, she said. And that helped him. Amara was quiet for a moment. Do you do that? She said. Look for grandma's things? Grace looked at her daughter, at 8 years old, asking the question directly. I used to, she said. I looked for a sweater for a long time, the green one she always wore. Did you find it? No, Grace said. Are you still sad about it? Amara said.
Grace thought about it honestly.
Sometimes, she said. Not as much. Why not as much? Amara said. Grace looked at her daughter, at the specific, focused attention of someone who wanted the real answer. Because I stopped looking for her in things, Grace said, and started looking for her in other places. Like where? Amara said. Grace looked at her daughter, at the refrigerator soup, at the way Amara listened, at 8 years old who knew how to be quiet when someone needed quiet. Like you, she said. Amara looked at her. She didn't say anything. She just came and sat next to Grace on the couch, close enough that their arms were touching. She picked up the remote. Can we watch something? She said. Yes, Grace said. They watched something. Grace didn't know what. She wasn't really watching. She was sitting next to her daughter with their arms touching and thinking about her mother and Marcus's mother and the specific, invisible way that people lived on in the people who had learned from them. Eleanor Webb in A Man Who Went to Coat Drives. Grace's mother in Refrigerator Soup. Both of them in Amara, who was 8 years old and already knew how to look for people in places that weren't things. 3 things happened in the following 2 weeks, not in order of importance, in order of when they happened. The first was the coat. Marcus sent it on Friday. Not the red one, a new one. Size 10 red, with a hood and deep pockets and the specific, serious warmth of something bought by someone who had done research rather than just purchased the first red coat they'd seen. There was a note with it, not a card, a note handwritten on plain paper, for Amara. Red is clearly her best color. Grace had read it twice. She'd shown it to Amara. Amara had read it once. She'd looked at the coat. She'd put it on. She'd turned around once slowly the way she'd turned around in the Goodwill store 2 years ago. She'd looked at Grace. It fits, Grace, she said. Can I wear it today? Amara said. It's 41 degrees, Grace said. So yes, Amara said. So yes, Grace said. The second was the job. She went back on Wednesday as Patricia had asked. She sat in on a training session for 2 hours. Watched Patricia walk 8 new hires through a case study, a patient, a diagnosis, a conversation that had gone wrong and needed to be understood. Grace sat in the back. She didn't say anything for the first 90 minutes. At the 90-minute mark, Patricia looked at her. "You have something," Patricia said, not a question. Grace looked at the 8 new hires, at the case study on the whiteboard. "The conversation went wrong before it started," she said. The patient walked in already defended. Whatever the advocate said after that was going to land wrong because the patient had already decided they were going to be managed rather than heard. Patricia waited. "You can't fix that in the conversation," Grace said. "You fix it before. The way the appointment is set up. The language in the confirmation text, whether the waiting room has something to read or just a television playing the news." She paused. "People decide whether they're safe before they walk in the door. By the time they're in the room, it's mostly already decided." The room was quiet. Patricia looked at her. "How do you fix the confirmation text?" one of the new hires said. Grace looked at her. At a woman maybe 25 years old who had asked the right follow-up question. "You don't tell people what's going to happen," Grace said. "You tell them what they're allowed to do, that they can bring someone, that they can ask questions, that they can say they don't understand and someone will explain it differently." She paused. "People don't need information. They need permission." The room was very quiet. Patricia was looking at her, not with the assessing look from Thursday, with something that had moved past assessing. "Take a break," Patricia said to the group. 15 minutes. She walked to where Grace was sitting. She sat down next to her. "How long have you known that?" she said. "Known what?" Grace said. "That people need permission more than information," Patricia said. Grace thought about it. "Since I was about 8, she said. "My mother was sick a lot when I was small. Not seriously, but often. And I noticed that when the doctor explained things, she understood them fine. But she didn't do anything differently until someone told her she was allowed to." Patricia looked at her. "Allowed to what?" she said. "Ask for help. Stop pretending she was fine when she wasn't." She paused. She needed permission, not information. She already had the information. Patricia was quiet for a moment. "I've been trying to teach that for 11 years, she said. "Has it worked?" Grace said. "Partially," Patricia said, "with some people." "What's different about the ones it works with?" Grace said. Patricia looked at her. "They already understand," Patricia said. "The teaching just gives them language for what they already do." "Then you're not teaching it," Grace said. "You're naming it." Patricia looked at her for a long time. "Yes," she said. "That's exactly what I'm doing." She stood up. "Come back Monday," she said. "I want you to run the morning session." Grace looked at her. "I don't work here yet," she said. "You will," Patricia said. "You haven't offered me a job," Grace said. "I'm offering you one now," Patricia said. "The paperwork takes a week. Run the session Monday." Grace looked at her. At a woman who had been trying to fill this position for 8 months. At a woman who had just told her she'd been naming something rather than teaching it. At a woman who had made a decision and was implementing it. "Okay," Grace said. "Good," Patricia said. She walked back to the front of the room. Grace sat in the back. She thought about permission. About her mother needing someone to tell her she was allowed to rest. About all the people who came to the pharmacy counter holding something teen that had changed their life an hour ago and didn't know what they were allowed to feel about it. About Amara, who had learned at 8 years old how to give people permission to be exactly where they were. She thought about the confirmation text. She was already rewriting it in her head. The third thing was Marcus. He called on Sunday. Not to follow up about the job. Patricia had apparently told him it was handled and he didn't need to be involved. He called because it was Sunday and he'd been to church and the coat drive had been running again and he'd walked past the bins. "I didn't look in," he said. "I want you to know that." "Progress," she said. "I stood there for a minute," he said, outside. "What did you do?" she said. "I thought about her," he said. "And then I went home." "Good," she said. He said. "Going home is good," she said. "Standing outside coat drives is." She paused. "It's part of it." "Part of what?" he said. "Figuring out where she is now," Grace said, "when she's not in the places you used to find her." He was quiet. "Have you figured that out?" he said. With your mother. Grace thought about refrigerator soup, about Amara on the couch with their arms touching, about teaching without knowing you were teaching. I'm figuring it out, she said. How long does it take, he said. I don't know, she said. But I think it gets easier to live alongside, he said. It doesn't go away, she said. The missing. But it stops being the only thing. He was quiet for a moment. She heard him exhale. The specific exhale of someone who had been holding something. My mother used to make soup, he said, from whatever was in the refrigerator. Grace was very still. She called it refrigerator soup, he said. My mother too, Grace said. She said, he started. You don't need a recipe, Grace said. You need attention. Silence. Yes, he said. How did you know that? She said the same thing, Grace said. Neither of them said anything for a moment. Two people on a Sunday afternoon, holding phones in different parts of the city, having found something they hadn't been looking for. Grace, he said. Yeah, she said. Thank you, he said. For what? She said. For being at the drive, he said. For the coat, for he stopped. For being the kind of person who writes her daughter's name in the collar. She looked at the red coat hanging by the door, the new one, size 10, with the hood and the deep pockets. Amara had worn it every day since Friday. Thank you, she said, for reading it. Monday morning. She got there at 8:50, 10 minutes early. She stood outside the conference room where the training session was going to happen, and she looked through the small window in the door at 8 empty chairs arranged in a semicircle and a whiteboard with nothing on it yet. She thought about Patricia telling her to run the session. She thought about what she was going to say. Not the content, she knew the content. She'd been living the content for 12 years at a pharmacy counter and 8 years at a kitchen table with a daughter who was learning to read rooms. She thought about how to start, how to walk into a room full of people who didn't know her yet, and give them permission to learn something that couldn't be taught, only named. She thought about Amara turning around in the new red coat. She thought about her mother making soup from what was in the refrigerator. She thought about Marcus standing outside the coat drive and going home. She opened the door. She walked in. She wrote one thing on the whiteboard, not an agenda, not a learning objective. One question, when did someone make you feel seen? She capped the marker. She put it down. She turned around. The first person was already coming through the door. Subscribe if you're new. Share this tonight with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments. When did someone make you feel seen? I read everyone. See you in the next story. That afternoon, Amara came home from school in the red coat. Hood up, pockets full of the specific miscellaneous objects that lived in 8-year-old pockets. A rock, a folded piece of paper, something Grace chose not to investigate. She dropped her backpack at the door. She looked at Grace. How was it? She said. Grace said, I think. Did you teach them? Amara said. Grace thought about it. I named some things, she said. They did the rest. Amara nodded, like that made sense, like that was exactly how it was supposed to work. She went to the kitchen. What's for dinner? She said. Whatever's in the refrigerator, Grace said. Amara looked in the refrigerator. She looked at Grace. Refrigerator soup? She said. Refrigerator soup, Grace said. Amara pulled up a chair. I'll help, she said. Grace handed her the wooden spoon.